Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Welcome to the joint board special meeting of the Rockingham Select Board and Bellows Falls Village Trustees. It's Tuesday, March 24th, 2020 at 5:30. We are downstairs in the third floor meeting room of Town Hall practicing safe distancing. I'm sorry, the lower theater of Town Hall practicing safe distancing. My apologies, that's what's on the agenda. Before we start, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I would like us to go around to see what members we have and make sure, because the public cannot see all of us. So Ben, if you would start, please.
Yeah, Brendan Shaw, Select Board.
Jonathan Wright, trustee.
Stephen Dolick, trustees, select board.
Gaetano, present in person, chair, Rockingham Select Board.
Deborah Wright, village president, Bellows Falls.
Gary Lickway, village trustee.
Peter Golick, select board, video.
Thank you.
Jim McAuliffe by video.
Are we missing one person? Is
Sue
Susan?
Hammond by video.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so those are all the board members, and there are some public attached to Zoom. Thank you all for participating, our first attempt to use this method. Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting?
I don't have any.
Okay. Moving on, public comment on items not on the agenda, 3 minutes per person. Shannon is checking that.
Anyone from the public?
It's for items not on the agenda.
I think you're good, Deb.
Okay. Moving on, our agenda is we have 2 executive sessions for this special meeting. Item number 1, I need a motion for the first executive session. If someone would please, on your agenda.
Do we have to do this independently between?
We have to do it, yes, both boards have to do it separately, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, it's tedious.
I'll make a motion that we go into an executive session for the appointment or employment and evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer and the employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during the open meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion by village trustees on the matter, on the motion? All right, as long as we all agree, yeah.
We have to voice for it.
We don't have to voice vote if we all unanimously say it. So that's if all 5 of us do. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, was that yes, Jigs, and,
Yes.
okay, all right. So that's a unanimous. We're good on that one. And so now select board.
Select Board, need a motion.
I make the motion, we enter into an executive session to reference the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during the open meeting.
Second.
Motion that made and seconded, go into executive session. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 So Peter, did you say yes too?
Yes.
Okay, and Susan did, so it's unanimous. All right, we did not intend to include the manager or the executive. All right, so now that we're back in open session, I can see everybody, yep. Now that we're back in open session, just letting the public know that the 3rd executive session, which is on contracts, is going to be moved to March 31st joint board meeting instead. Let's see, we have a motion to be made. Who has that motion? So go ahead. We have to do it individually.
I move that we do not renew the manager's contract and it will lapse June 30th, 2020. And a formal letter will be provided by an attorney.
Need a second for that? I'm sorry? We need a second? I don't hear anything from them. Can't
Need
hear
a
them.
second the motion?
I'm not seconding.
Either of you second the motion?
You can second.
I'll second.
Peter did.
Motion been made and seconded. I don't have the words. The motion,
Want me to read it?
Yeah.
I'll make it legal, we'll have them do it.
motion has been made and seconded to,
Move that we do not renew the manager's contract and it will lapse June 30th, 2020. And a formal letter will be provided by attorney.
any discussion?
Any discussion? I hear nothing.
We'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, wait, if there's any no's, that means
No,
Your name.
I say no.
Susan says no.
Okay, so voice vote, we'll do a roll call. All those in favor would say aye.
Peter, aye.
Gaetano, aye.
Stefan,
Ben,
Nay.
Susan, nay.
The motion passes 4-1.
I need someone from the trustee side to read the same motion.
I move that we do not renew the manager's contract and it will lapse June 30th, 2020, and provide a formal letter by an attorney to follow.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in, we might have to do this by, let's just do this by voice vote.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, Jiggs, you want to start us off?
Jigs McAuliffe, aye.
Gary Liquay, aye.
Deborah Wright, aye.
Jonathan Wright, aye.
Stefan, aye.
Okay, it was unanimous. All right, that is the motion, and we are done with the meeting, bulk of the meeting. Is there any other business? Ben?
No.
John?
No.
Stefan?
None.
Gaetano? Gary?
No,
Jiggs, any further business?
No.
This one, we'll go into ours next.
Peter.
Peter
I have none, no.
and Susan.
No.
Okay. All right, are there any agenda items we need to talk about for the next board meeting? We're gonna move the contracts to the 31st, to March 31st. There's no other executive session needed. Need a motion.
Wait, for the 31st, will we be getting a COVID update? Because I know something had across from Wyndham Regional that some expenses could be reimbursed because we are in a national emergency. I don't know what. So it's something that if they can look at over the next week, what expenses
That makes sense.
might be reimbursable.
Yeah,
I think we need a COVID update for the May 31st,
I mean, March 31st, right?
March 31st, right? I wish it was May 31st.
I agree with you, Sue.
he said she could update us on that.
Yeah, and actually, can I just say something about the other?
Yep.
The motion, I completely respect that municipalities have, the, right and the, it's very important that you have a manager that you want. So I completely understand. I actually was considering, giving notice, but I thought this wasn't a good time to do that because of the COVID situation, because there's so much going on. But it has seemed that we've been kind of playing a pickup game where we're playing by different rules. And so that was something that I thought we would need to talk about if we were going to continue to work together. And so it's not surprising, but I respect it and it's fine and we'll work on the transition.
So Susan's request for a COVID-19 update would
Oh,
make
yeah.
sense at any
No.
meeting anyway, but
Well, no,
we might have more information
No,
next
I was
week.
gonna tell you guys actually at the next meeting, what we're doing, we established a separate fund for the COVID expenses because many of them should be reimbursable, but we're not sure which ones. So we're keeping track of everything that we spend that is related to the event. So, you'll have that.
For potential reimbursement.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure some things will be reimbursable.
Yeah.
But it's important, especially with FEMA, you need to have all the detail and you need to keep it for 10 years. They will come back and do audits, seriously, they'll come back after they've given you money. They will come back 7, 8 years later and try to get
And claw back.
it,
if they need
it back.
to.
So you need to make sure that you keep all of those receipts.
And of course, things that aren't reimbursable now might be tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's why we're creating a fund, so we're looking at employee costs, supply costs. Who knows how, where they're going to be. We don't have a huge amount of costs right now, but, we'll allocate it.
As time goes on.
Yeah.
All right, if there's nothing further for the next joint board meeting on the 31st of March, I need a motion to adjourn. No,
Madam
yeah.
Chairman, is ULT gonna be on there?
Yes, we're moving that to the 31st.
And are we gonna be, the rest of the board's gonna be updated on what the plan going forward is?
Yeah.
Okay,
More information. Okay, motion to adjourn,
so move.
Motion to adjourn.
all right, a
Second.
second? Okay, did you just second, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Yes, thank you, and we will move on to the trustees meeting next,
6:49.
at 6:49.
The first thing is COVID update, right?
Right.
Or no, first you gotta do public.
Approve the minutes for March 14th, 2020.
So approve?
Need a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or conversation on the minutes of 14th? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Jakes?
Yeah, I had a few items, but
yeah.
I don't think there's anything incorrect. So,
So you're okay, what, they just correct their, what, language corrections or something else?
no, just follow-up things that I'll bring up during our meeting.
Oh, okay, so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's what I wanted, okay, so, all right, public comment on items not in the agenda. Shannon, does anyone want to speak on anything? Is Shannon there?
I am here. I don't see anybody raising their hand.
Okay, all right. Then we, that doesn't, the manager, doesn't have anything for the manager here.
Right, because it's a special meeting and we often don't do that, but, so I was gonna just do the COVID-19. Let me show you this and then
Okay,
I'll
sure.
switch it off and then you can see people. All right. So,
So I don't know.
so just the COVID stuff is changing daily. It's public safety, is critically involved.
All we can see is Jonathan.
The utilities are essential employees. We're doing cross-training. We're doing scheduling so that we can, respond and hopefully not get infected. What else? I told you about the financial stuff. We're keeping all of the, financial, all of our expenses in a fund. Shannon, do you have anything else on the COVID?
No, we're tracking all employees, who's in daily, who's out, the reason they're out. We have protocols for part-time and full-time staff, and they are reporting daily whether they're working from home or off-site or on-site that aren't open to the public.
Okay.
Okay, and so then Village, do you guys have any questions? I mean, we're most of our days now are spent on the COVID stuff.
I'm assuming the police and fire also have different protocols now that you have to concern yourself with spittle and touching and all of those concerns.
Yes, we had 3 officers that may have been exposed yesterday. And we are taking precautions for that.
And I'm sure the same thing.
Yeah, we
going on
developed
with you guys as well.
protocols to kind of help limit exposure.
Yeah, and we did that in my office too. We aren't closing the office, but basically we're closed most of the time unless I'm working alone in there. So our employees came in one at a time. At the door, basically, I wore gloves to handle their paperwork. I wore gloves today to handle their paperwork. I have to stop licking my finger to turn the pages. That's a bad habit. But it's getting used to the new normal.
Right.
Most of my employees are on partial or full unemployment now because I can't use some of them. It's changed everywhere.
Yep, us too.
Yep.
Plus we respond to the public, obviously. So the annual meeting, hopefully things will be back to more normal, by May 19th.
And my birthday.
Um,
It's always around the same time.
Yeah, so, and the governor may come up, they were looking at potentially, changing regulations on elections. I don't know if they've done that yet.
Tomorrow,
But
probably.
we put a lot of information on the website for the annual meeting so that people would know how it works. Because right now you have to physically go to the clerk's office and the clerk's office is closed. So we put information on the website, so that people can get forms and understand. What would happen if annual meeting, does come at a time when the prohibition on groups is still around, then, what we would do is open the meeting and then continue it to a date certain after
After that.
Yeah. That's what we can do now. There may be
Yeah.
additional mechanisms put in before then.
The schools are providing lunches for kids.
Yeah, and that's on the website.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
important, to make sure that they're getting fed, bag lunches. Also, paperwork starts going out tomorrow, school packs for them to try and to give parents things to help them homeschooling their children. A new normal for parents who are used to going off to work, who may not be able to do that and handle it and have their children going to school every day. I noticed a lot of parents going, what to do with my children? I noticed that the Wells Street Playground was announced to be open. It did say.
It's kind of open.
It's kind of open, less than 10 or less people.
Yeah.
Ryan, I guess Ryan Stu put that, came from the rec anyway, and said, that was the email I got. And it said the police would be watching it, but I can say that there's been some problems at the Wells Street Playground. There is someone who lives there who's screaming at the kids to leave. She doesn't want them there. I think it's causing problems because her other child, the child she has, is staying inside and she's having fights with the child because it wants to go out.
Oh,
So that's problematic, but moms who need their kids to get, to run around a little bit, get tired, have to have something to do. I know that the athletic grounds are still open to the public if you go up there.
well, they're not.
So you can't really close them.
Hadley Field, you mean?
Yeah,
That's
Hadley Field.
closed.
Is it closed now?
Closed.
They didn't tell me it
Games
was
are
closed. Because I had asked last week if it was open and they said it was. Now it's not. Okay. I didn't know that. As a high school board member, I should have known that. All right, but what to do? There were a couple people last week hanging around. My husband was cruising by looking at trees and he scared them off. But anyway, we're
And
gonna find
basically
more
that's what we're
problems.
doing.
Think what to do, with kids in the neighborhoods, they get really bored, parents get crazy. We will all adapt. Yeah, we're gonna do worse stuff, I'm sure, than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Are we done with COVID-19, moving on to the proposed budget?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so you received a budget, with your packet, but only paper, I guess you had the minutes and the budget, are the two things that you had.
Great. Yes, that's it.
So we changed, the police, budget we put in for, 6 officers. And, that was obviously the main change, the largest change.
So we were gonna look at wastewater first, because it's the one area we didn't talk about.
Yeah, go ahead, let's look at wastewater. We didn't ask Rob to be here today because we thought, hopefully Shannon and I can answer any questions that you have.
Okay, so our wastewater is on page 15. Starts on 14 for the revenue.
What is the first order of business is to go over the wastewater? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because it's the one department we didn't cover last time.
Okay.
So page 14, yes, please. I'm looking back at it, but I know it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, so I can, explain, okay, so we have we just put a note, in the note, it tells you the rate increases so that you can, remember them.
On the revenue, can you tell me what the Saxon River contract description line means? I guess it's a little confusing me.
Last year we had revenue, additional revenue because they were gearing up, their plant was new, they were under construction, so we had to provide additional services so they could test
Right.
the plant.
Okay.
So back to base contract, no extra billing. That means we're back to standard operating level.
Okay.
Because their plant is functioning. But we wanted you to know that we can bill them, and obviously we pay for it if we do spend extra time.
Okay, because
So that's why it's going down. That's why the dollar amount is going down in Section River.
because
But
last year they were.
Yeah, but you
they were
noticed that like in 19, it was much lower than
Right.
20.
It was more than the 58 projected, but yeah, but that's good.
Well, no, the 58 is the budget from, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, the
I what
actual
you're
turned out to be
saying.
66, which was $8,000 higher.
Right, but that revenue is just all charges for services.
Right,
So there's no risk to
Right.
the village.
And I read their minutes. It's possible that the budget line that line might actually go up and make a little bit more revenue because they have some issues with rust and things going on at the plant, based upon their minutes, which would indicate we might have some additional services to provide at some point. Okay, that was my question. Anyone else have questions on wastewater revenue at this point? Now moving on to the general government running of wastewater. I see here on the personnel which is on page 15, that you're looking at recommending an additional 2.5% on top of the 2%.
That was the chief operator's recommendation. He would like to give an additional 2.5% for merit.
Yeah, to bring the position in line with other positions and because of the experience of the employee.
It's the same thing they're recommending with water too.
Yeah, similar, very similar, yes. We're out of sync and our rates our pay is lower than.
Well, we don't have, we did not get a very good analysis. I mean, they had.
No, and we owe you that.
Yeah.
We really are underwater with the COVID-19. But
The other thing is that you've taken all the money out of the budget. It's like,
What do you mean by that?
15. I mean, it's like under 21,
oh, it's missing all the salaries in line 5.
missing all the salaries.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's missing all the salaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wrote you yesterday to say what happened here.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at it, but I will update this and send it back.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely wrong.
That's what I was looking for, okay.
So we see that that's not correct. So we want to deal with that. We want
Yeah,
to see
but-
what it looks like.
Shannon, the totals are, even though that's not shown, the totals are still in the dollar amounts, right?
No.
No.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
not, okay, then this is actually, then it's not really
Yeah, it's way up there.
a good review. Okay.
Well, I guess we didn't really want to start with wastewater. did
Right.
we?
And the other thing is the water and wastewater, they don't go to village meeting. That's just an approved budget by you guys. So we're not on the same time frame, but we'll get those back to you tomorrow.
Right, but they wind up in the annual report. So people will see them, right? They won't still see them, but they don't vote on it because it's user-based.
Fee-based, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but we'll have it straight.
Before that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out.
Okay. Because we're just reviewing, we haven't approved the budget yet. I mean, probably could do that at our next regular meeting, I would assume.
Yeah, the first meeting in April.
Yep. Any other questions on sewer before we go back to the beginning?
Yeah, the septic went up, but that's a reimbursed. for
What
the
about the
expense.
what about the other items? The other fields are filled.
Right.
Um,
Anything in particular?
Well, I think, one of the questions is it's a revenue expense item, which is the septage revenue and the sludge disposal.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that relationship should be. Should the sludge removal represent, 30% of revenues? Should it represent 40% of revenues? What is the right number?
This is Rob's recommendation based on what he's seen in the last little bit and what he projects to happen. And he provided the numbers for both the revenue and the expense.
Now,
Okay.
he's not there though, right?
Right, no.
No, but I can give you a general explanation of it. Obviously, revenues need to exceed expenses because it's a service that we provide. Lately, the disposal has been a higher, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's been a higher amount than what we had previously because of regulations.
Right.
So we put in some money for consultant expenses, fees to determine what the best thing to do is. What some operators are looking at dryers so that you can dry the sludge, and really the most important reason to do that would be to land spread it, but because of certain contaminants, it might not be allowed to be land spread in the future. So we don't want to do that if the regulations might change. So we need some advice on this. So Jigs, what I can tell you is it's a higher percentage now than it used to be, but it's still obviously less than revenues.
Then we like it, yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
well,
No,
the
no.
expense is
Yeah, the
less
expense
than,
is still less than
all
revenue.
of the expenses are less than revenues.
Right.
Well,
So we budgeted only $38,000 for sludge and grit disposal, yet the estimate is that it's gonna be at 75.
That's the revenue estimate.
No, I'm looking at the sludge and grit disposal. On
Oh, yeah, right,
page
right, right.
16,
Hold
in the
on.
middle of the page. We budgeted only an expense of 38,000, yet the estimate is coming in at 75.
Right. But the revenue is also high. So we won't have a loss on that.
Right. Just not as much revenue as we like.
Well, no, it'll cover it.
Oh, yeah,
We are
yeah.
getting, it's actually, it's a moneymaker. I mean, it's not bad to get more.
Just for your information, in the 2019 or 2020 budget, the cost of the sludge removal was about 28% of projected revenue.
Mhm.
In this budget, it's 47%
Yeah.
of projected revenue.
Great deal.
And, I think I don't know what the significance of, I certainly like 28% better than 47. And I don't know if the bottom line is that, fees should be increased or whatever. I mean, I'd like to hear Rob discuss this, obviously.
Yeah, and we bounced that back and forth a few times about raising the sludge cost per ton or whatever it is.
Right, well, I think we did raise it last year. Remember the conversations that we had about the hauling, because the local plant couldn't take it anymore, or the local disposal location, so now it's having to go to the landfill up north.
Which is for,
So the expenses have increased, but again, that's why we want to get a consultant, because they could also advise us on whether or not the fees, or how much the fees should increase.
so the fees and whether or not it can be used if we dry it, which would be an investment in drying the material, but.
Right, but that's predicting regulatory changes too, which is challenging to do.
All right, so is that enough of an explanation, Jigs, or what do you?
Well, I think I guess my question is, are we going to get a shot at Rob?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, he loves being shot at.
Maybe at our next regular meeting, we could have, like, for instance, have answers to questions such as, have we raised the fees in the last year? How much do we raise the fees? How does that compare to a few other areas? He's done that before. In previous years, we've asked about raising, septic fees.
Yeah, well, I think just explaining the issues would help too.
Yeah. Okay, so next meeting, Jigs? Our next regular meeting, which will be in April?
Yeah, because the maintenance expense is up significantly from budget.
Right. And I can tell you why that's because it's not a new plant anymore. But Rob can give you more detail.
Okay.
It's not a new plant. It is a new plant for
Now
God's sake.
the completion, it's a year old. He's very particular about maintenance, but he can explain that.
I mean, usually when you have a new thing, maintenance costs, you get a little bump, positive bump from maintenance costs, but it's not in this case. So
No, the bump was last year. The dip was last year.
So
it's an old plant now.
No, the maintenance is going to be even more next year, but he can explain that.
Okay. So we'll ask for that to be explained our next meeting, Jake.
Yeah, I would recommend that we discuss this when Mr. Wheeler is here.
Yeah. Okay, so April. All right, so why don't we go back to the beginning? Go over the areas in the general government.
Right. The one item, Shannon, that is Shannon gone?
No.
I don't see her.
I'm here.
Okay. Her picture went off the screen, but the 66 Atkinson Street, you did take it out of the fire, but it didn't get put in any place. I didn't see.
Yeah, I just need a dollar figure.
So
Well, I can't give it to you. I don't know what to.
Okay. So it came out of an area, but it didn't go back anywhere.
I mean, what do we expend this year?
Did we spend it this fiscal year on
You should
66
have
Atkinson
reimbursed
Street?
the town for the barricades.
For half of them, right?
I'm sorry, Shannon, you said something?
For half of the barricades.
I think
That was in last fiscal year.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And we've had liens, but the only thing we have had would be attorney fees.
Yeah, which actually we should have a fair amount of that.
Yeah.
Just because you've been working with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we showed 4,400 as the estimate for this year.
Right.
And I would imagine.
Depends on what we decide to do, because the town has an unsafe buildings fund. And it also depends on, what do we anticipate doing? I mean, I can suggest a dollar amount, but if I don't know what you guys are thinking of doing, it could be vastly off. So some idea of where you're headed with that building.
Well, we haven't even heard back from the courts yet, have we? Since
No.
Got Mr. Glennon served.
Right.
No response at this point, and probably not going to hear anything because it's not essential.
And what are you?
Exactly. That's why it's so hard to make an estimate. I can put in another 5,000 for this year, but that may be not even.
Well,
close.
even for attorney's fees or lawyer's fees, I would think we'd have to have something in there.
Yeah. The last concern I had was it last month, I think, when a piece of slate fell into Atkinson Street, actually on the sidewalk, on the front side of the building, where we currently have children walk, when they were in school, walking. So when that goes back to normal, whenever that is, there is still concern for regular residents walking underneath that building, and slate will apparently continue to fall from time to time. Will we think about later on wanting to put fencing in part of the road, that area in front of disallowing any access to School Street from that piece of Atkinson Street? I don't know. I certainly wouldn't want, the piece of slate that Sean brought me was this big. I certainly wouldn't want that falling on my head.
That roof is noticeable.
I would put 5 or 10,000 in there.
Okay.
And we can come back and discuss it at the next meeting too, if we don't like that.
5,000 is only about 30 to 35 hours of an attorney.
I'm an attorney.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
10,000 probably makes more sense.
We don't know what we're going to do with that. As far as I know, he's still on the, it would be in the delinquent taxes on the building have not been paid. Is that correct? Is that correct, Shannon?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Tax is still delinquent on that building,
That's correct.
so it would go to tax sale.
But who's gonna buy?
I'm not saying, yes, but someone might rescue it from those people who are concerned about the building. Might rescue it in a tax sale by paying, just to give them another year and a day.
If they were gonna do that, I would think they would have already done it. I doubt that Chris is turning down offers.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not. Although I don't see any ability unless they got it, kept it for a year and then decide to tear it down. But I don't know if the space is so small, can't imagine what they could do with it. School wanted parking spaces. Chuck said they couldn't even get 3 out of it.
Yeah, it's, somebody's gonna have to pay to take it down.
Yeah,
So I think the earlier you figure that out, the better.
I know, except that we don't have the funds for that. But it always goes back to the same thing. Taking care of private property and everybody, the people always want us to take care of property that we don't own. But yes, at the very least, time for an attorney would make sense on that building.
Okay, I have another question, Deb, on the, under the home office employees.
Okay, what page you on, Jake?
This is page 3.
Thank you.
The Veemers note says new rate in fiscal year 15.
Oh, yeah, that's old though.
It looked like you were using a 7% rate. Is that what rate are you using? Shannon?
I'm using 6.5 in anticipation of an increase.
So are you gonna update that note and, because it ought to be the same for all
Yep.
employees, shouldn't it?
Yep.
Okay,
Well, no.
no,
Police are different.
police are different, okay.
Yeah,
But you'll put the percent in that you're estimating?
the accurate note, yes.
All right. Okay, the fire department reserve,
Wait, hold a second. Before we move into the fire department, just want to make sure that none of the board member has any other questions on pieces before we get there. I see nothing, head shaking. Okay, now we go to fire. Go ahead, Jake. I think you said what?
it was some.
Did you say fire? Did you say fire?
We talked in the, about this, Sean was talking about a $5,000 reserve. Didn't we decide to just put it in the budget, not try to have an article setting up a reserve?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So that's the way we're going to handle that.
Correct. And so when you guys see that we spend the money, because we're gonna just spend the money, I will make a note of it. So when you see the warrants, you know why you are purchasing $5,000 worth of town equipment.
Right.
What line is that going in? Where's that 5K going, guys?
It's on, I think it's page 6.
Equipment?
Yeah, it's page 6.
Under fire equipment, is it?
Which one?
Madam President,
Yes, John.
I have to acknowledge.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Sorry, hold on a second. Sean's got his hand up. Yes, Sean.
The $5,000 is under new equipment, but I believe that
Okay.
the fund he's talking about is what we talked about for the ladder truck, which is establishing a fund, a reserve for future repairs on the truck.
Did you hear that, Jigs?
Yeah, so that's right. I know that was the plan, and I think that my understanding is that in order to do that, Sean, in order to set that money aside, we've got to do it in an article.
Okay,
Otherwise, if we don't spend it, it goes away, you know?
Yep.
So, if you knew that you were going to do X, Y, and Z this coming year, then we could put that in a budget but I think you want it to be more flexible, right?
correct.
So wait, so article, no article? I'm confused.
Why would we have to have an article? Because
Do we have, if we want to set us, even if we're not asking for more money there, if we want to reserve it like the select
if you
board
wanted,
did?
well, no, if you wanted to roll over from year,
Yeah,
then you would have to have an article.
article.
But if we're just setting up an annual fund of $5,000 to cover maintenance for that one piece,
Yeah,
we can just budget that $5,000 each year.
but it wouldn't go in new equipment then, it would go someplace else.
Well, we can make a line item account.
For that particular equipment.
There's two separate things. The 5,000
Yeah.
that's new equipment, that's totally separate. This new fund, my original thought was to, at the end of the year, whatever's left in the vehicle maintenance fund, sweep that into this new account, to go towards
Oh.
future repairs of the ladder truck.
Okay, we don't need an article for that though, do we? We just need to make sure it gets designated
To
that way?
establish something you do.
Right.
To establish it, that's what we would do. And so we wouldn't have a dollar figure attached to that, don't you have to have a dollar figure attached to that?
No, we can open up a fund, a reserve fund, and just open it. And we don't have to allocate anything to it right now.
Or we may be able to define it as the remaining balance in blank, blank, blank.
Yeah, we need to find out how we have to word that, because I was under the impression that you can't just open a fund. You need to have a dollar figure for that fund. We have to say whatever's left over of that money at the end of the year goes into that fund. So we need to know the language, so Wendy's writing it down right now. In order to put that on there properly and not get in any fiscal trouble for that. Okay. We'll go from there.
Okay.
We'll know maybe by next meeting. But do we have to finalize it by the next meeting?
No,
By the end of April?
April 20th, I think. April 20th is when we need to send it to the printer on the normal printer schedule.
Okay, so we really
have
need
time.
to say yes to that. Okay. All right, anyone else on the fire department? James, do you have anything else on fire?
No.
Okay, so we move along to the police department. Budget. So the budget is set for 6 officers plus chief. I'm still concerned though, the money is still more than we anticipated. We were talking about no more than 900,000, I guess 977.
That's because of I believe, the dispatch.
Dispatch is in here, yep. It's true, it's 100,015. That's with the 3%, I'm assuming, yeah.
That's the dispatch, yeah.
Yep. And, okay. So anyone else have anything to say about police?
Just as a general comment, I think that, when I look at things like the, I got to get the right lines. We went from dispatcher from a budget of 46.5 to 58% increase. I think we're going to have a new person. I don't know what the thinking is there, but
I just put in a placeholder based on the salaries of the dispatchers that have the same qualifications that we're looking for. It might be a little less, but we're already cutting this budget so much that if we put in 45 and we need to hire at 46, we're going to go over budget. This is just such a tight budget.
Again, just thought that we're going to a new person, whenever that is established.
Yeah, it just depends on the experience you want. That position is not just dispatch, which the interim chief has discussed. It does a lot of functions. That's why we're not just having the dispatch center do it. So it depends on, what you want to bring in. With significantly less officers, my recommendation, and we can let the chief speak to it, would be to bring in someone who does not need a ton of training.
But we were already only paying the current dispatcher who was doing all of that with a reduced staff, $46,500.
And it's a union job, so it's going to be. She's going to be the person will be brought in at the, whatever the experience level is, right? I think there's a.
Yeah, I can move it down to 46.5.
I would put it at 46.5.
Okay.
At this point, that's my thinking. Anyone have any different?
But in general, I don't really, I think, I think the biggest thing is that I hope Acting Chief Bemis and Wendy have listened to us in terms of the need to, create an entirely different staffing model. And I mean, that should be the case right now. I hope to God it is, that we're slowing down that overtime account. But this 2 people on duty at all times is a thing of the past with this reduced staffing. So, when you put the new paradigm in place, you wonder about why would with fewer officers, why would shift differential, go up or whatever. I really think that the critical thing is that the manager and the acting chief are working on a staffing model reflecting the trustees' desire here.
Okay.
But in general, I'd rather err on the conservative side rather than cut everything down. And I think you've done that, Shannon. So.
Anyone have anything further on the police department? I hear nothing. All right.
I mean, staff would still recommend the 8 positions.
We are.
But I just, yeah.
6. Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you. Then that moves us on to what we have left, which is parks. And then that's it. And then capital expenditures, then we go to water. John, Jessup?
Well, I have questions that I'd like to ask Shannon. Are we making any allowances in this next round of budget coming up for decreased tax revenue payments?
Yeah.
For both water, sewer, and the village?
So my expectation would not be that we are. So these payments, this next round of payments, there would be, it's 6-month billing. So that goes out on the 25th tomorrow. And that would be through, they're not due for 6 months.
Well, they start.
Yeah, there will be due.
They start. You start paying in April.
March.
You can pay monthly, but they're not due until the end of the 6 months. There's monthly. You can pay monthly, but you don't receive interest or penalties for the end of the 6 months. So my thought was to not jump the gun and make revenue assumptions 6 months out. But I can if you guys. This is just so hard and it's so fluid, but we do have 6 months on the water and sewer before interest or penalties hit. We did discuss potentially waiving interest and penalties for payments that are due the 25th, especially for March 25th, but that's in this fiscal year's budget, which we wouldn't change. And we would obviously bring that, the trustees are you make all the decisions for the water and wastewater funds. So if you wanted to do that, we would bring it to you at the next meeting for approval, but maybe see where we're at and not impose the fees on the computer until we hear from you.
I think Jonathan's thinking about something a lot more significant than that.
I'm thinking long-term in the fact that we're probably gonna see a drastic increase in delinquencies, both through the water, sewer, as well as village taxes.
Right.
Which is gonna limit cash flow.
So
Hold on, please. I know it's hard to be able to attempt to, shake up the magic 8 ball and figure out exactly what that number is going to be at. But with the news that that we're in a stay-at-home order at this point, we've got 2 weeks at least where our unemployment rate is about to go to 50%. With the metric that most households, especially in our community, can't afford an extra $400 a month payment if an emergency arose. I'm thinking that we're probably going to be looking at an increase in delinquencies, maybe 20%.
Well, I think, I think there's one thing to anticipate shortfalls because people don't have the money. I think the other thing is, we're doing a budget, and I think we've got to do a budget responsibly and then deal with the fallout from this pandemic. So I think that we should leave things the way they are. We certainly can't cut employees. The plant, we got to run the plant.
Can I address the potential for shortfall or maybe delay in payments?
Go ahead.
So because of the pandemic, we would be eligible for either loans at a low interest rate, or we do have a good reserve as the town and village share their monies for cash flow purposes. But loans right now are at, and especially for those businesses suffering because of the pandemic, are at 0% borrowing. But then we're also going to be eligible for other things because we have declared this not only a state but a national emergency. So FEMA and other funds. So totally, the 5 of your decision for your budget, but I would budget normally and then look into what we have. What we can do to subsidize the shortfall in revenue if we need to.
I agree with that. And I think and that includes things like, certain types of routine maintenance. Maybe the water and sewer guys will have to, look at that very closely.
We've already done that. We've already pared down on them and essential functions only. And
right.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I don't think we should mess with the budget. I think we should budget like.
And mess with the budget, but I'm saying have a plan in place for when we hit.
What are we doing here?
When we go to a situation where we have to make bond payments and we don't have the revenue coming in an already stressed community financially. That's my concern.
Yeah.
No, it's a valid concern.
I think there's some language already about bond payments coming down the pike. I saw something a couple days ago about that possibility. So we might get some deferral on time payment, on time to pay. Our income from taxes is already estimated at $267,821 lower than the current year.
Right.
So we already have depleted what we expect to have come in, and that's basically figuring before we see that. But I think a good indicator will be by May 10th when the next tax payments are due.
Well, the tax payments are low because the budget's low.
No, I mean, we'll be able to see what's happening with those in accounting. We'll be able to see what's happening with tax payments being made, property taxes being made by May 10th. So we'll see what happens before the new fiscal year comes. And that's also before our annual meeting, and the citizens might vote our budget down. Anyway, and we have to go back to the table and we'll have new numbers to work with at that point. I think that's what we have to play with. is what, not play with, but go with, is building a normal budget as minimized as we already have and consider alterations when necessary. Okay,
I agree.
yeah. Is there anything else we should go over tonight? And we have a couple of meetings to make a final, or at least one more meeting to make a final decision. And we'll see some stuff from wastewater. We'll have to make decisions. I am concerned, I want to talk about water and wastewater. I'm concerned with the 2.5% merit increase on top of what might happen in negotiations, as we haven't quite started those. Well, get ready to get to the table on those. At this point, those kind of merit, I mean, typically a small amount of money is left for merit increases that's at the discretion of the manager.
But we haven't had that.
Right, I know. But that would be throughout the entire municipality, not just for water and wastewater. And I understand, they have been in the middle of many communities for a long, long time with larger populations as far as their rate of pay is concerned. And this is the first time in the 10 years I've been paying attention to the budget that we're going this route. I don't agree with it, and I would recommend we don't go with it.
You mean this route by actually budgeting it?
The step, yes, by adding in the 2.5% merit for both water and wastewater, myself, especially since we're still in the red in both water and wastewater. I just don't think this is a good year to do that, but that's just me. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks about that, but that's the major area for me that I'm concerned at the moment, now that we've whittled down the police department budget.
Deb, I'm gonna say that I concur with that and feel that it probably should have been rose in a different environment, and I'll leave it at that.
Is that, am I supposed to understand something?
Well, what I'm saying is there was some, over the years, we've reached that point through IE negotiations. It would have been better left there, in my opinion.
Oh, you're talking about employing the union?
Right, yeah.
The topic.
Yeah, well,
Opposed to here.
I guess this is, all right.
But you said this is the department, the operators.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
to
it's
me, it's more transparent when what we think is a need is set. And normally in union negotiations, we don't talk about individuals. It's more.
It's across the board. Right.
Yeah.
John, you had something?
I mean, I'm torn on both sides of this issue. Personally, I think it needs to go into the union contract negotiations because my philosophy on that is from the moment that you issue your letter of intent to negotiation, you're already in negotiations from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
That is the.
Oh, we could, Jonathan, you could also raise the issue, do they want to drop out of the union?
Right.
I think that's,
The other,
to me is,
hold on a second, please. The other side of it is if we don't budget for it and we go into the union negotiation and then say we don't give them the whole 2.5%, but we make concessions on another side of it and we end up giving them 2 + 1 for a total of 3, and we don't have it budgeted for, then we have to short one line item to be able to cover the overage on that. So I think that we have to be somewhat conservative in our financial planning, and to be somewhat conservative in our budgeting for it. But I think we need to consider the option that we're going to end up at least having a little bit of an increase in salaries, right?
Through union negotiation.
So I'm not sure 4.5 total is the number that we should plan on. But there's always, I think there's, the possibility maybe 2.5 or 3 that we should budget for. And then we see where we end up after the negotiations.
But we're an open meeting. All this information is available to all of them. Local 98 covers a lot more departments than just water and wastewater.
Go ahead.
I don't believe, as we are in a negative position in both departments, that we should be kicking that extra to the user fees, to our users. I don't want to do that. And I want us to get out of the hole as fast as we can It's still gonna take us a few more fiscal years to do that. This is not, as you can see now, this is currently not the state of the world to be changing that. I don't want to make that change. Now, if they had asked for it a few years ago, it might have been a different story, but they did not, and here we are. So we have to deal with reality. Everybody would want more money, but we can't always accommodate. And all the other departments didn't say, hey, we'd like a 2.5% merit on top of our, whatever we get in negotiations either. And that could happen because the money, the budget is available to everyone. It's not a secret what we're doing. We have to do it in open meeting.
And they didn't say on top of negotiations, they're worried about just parity. Just certain employees have worked here a long time and they're making less than employees that have similar jobs at other treatment plants.
I understand that, but I don't.
That's the issue.
But what you brought to us was a comparison between other communities and them.
Right.
And I don't want to do that because the other communities, we have communities of similar size that are making less money than we are, and communities of larger size that are making more money than we are. And I don't agree that that's an appropriate focus for our community.
Well, that's where we've lost employees too, but that's all right.
Yeah. Exactly. Did we lose
Oh,
something?
but I think
No, it just has this little
Oh,
reminder.
timeout? Yeah.
my comment is, I think Rob and Brian bringing this issue up is fair game. They brought it up at when they started this process, which was before we were in the middle of the coronavirus. I think I certainly agree with what you're saying, Deb, and but I want to put my little 2 cents in that this is a union contract team. These departments voted to go into the union, and we have to deal with this as a union contract. And as I said, I think if you're not dealing with a union contract, you've got a different set of variables. So
That's true.
For the,
Jen?
would the group like to just see the 2% in the next version of the budget? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm sorry,
that's what I would recommend.
I would prefer that, and then we just decide whether we go up or down.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Yes, please. Does anyone have anything further on the budget areas we've been talking about? It's just everything, and we'll see it again, beginning of April. If we want to. I think that, don't we have to be done like 6 weeks before the, Wendy said it goes to print April 20th.
I'll look,
She's gonna check.
so we're going to have to finalize it at our next meeting.
If we only have one meeting next month, yes, that would be correct.
Okay,
What is that?
so Rob,
hold on.
Second Tuesday is,
should we try to talk to Rob or?
he is gonna come to our next meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, that, or at least
Okay.
by remotely.
We can, I can also text him the questions you guys had and then, or email him and then forward, Wendy or I can forward you his responses in email.
That would be the 14th, right? That's the second Tuesday.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
the report is due to the printer, and this is on the non-expedited schedule on April 20th. That's what I said.
Okay.
So, your regular meeting is the 14th.
We'd have to decide then, really.
That
Unless we
would,
had a special meeting.
yeah, I mean, or you could have a meeting if you wanted to have, something on Saturday, or you could have a Thursday, April 16th, if you wanted to.
Yeah, so we can make it a determination, I think, on the 14th.
I think so.
If we're not ready to go, then we'd have to do something else, so. That'd be on us to have our thinking caps on for that date. Okay. So yes, and then we have Rob remotely by then, since everyone's in place, talking about wastewater. Yep. Okay, and thank you, Shannon. If you send him those questions in advance, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything further on budget? Jake, you all set?
I'm all set.
Jonathan?
Good.
Stephen?
Good.
Here, okay. Then we move on to the last item, which is the personnel rules.
Yeah, second to the last, remember we have the executive session still.
Yeah, that's.
Because I really think you should hear from Ray on this.
Well, I don't know if we need the executive session. It's the item was on excuse me.
Oh, because you're putting it on the 31st. Okay,
Right.
that's fine.
That's for the ULP, so we should go with that. I don't think we need another executive session this time. But we do have the personnel.
Yeah, and Jonathan wanted a paper copy. I didn't know if other people do too. And so what this is the changes. It's not the hugely complicated yeah.
What, they were supposed to
Are
be.
you allowed to have this?
As you guys canceled the meeting they were supposed to have this morning, right?
Yeah, Rob is the chair of that, and there's a lot going on and a lot of people not in the office, so it's pretty hard to.
Well, when I asked Rebecca about that, I said, wait, you sent us a digital copy of the personnel rules and now you're telling me there's gonna be another meeting before our meeting.
Well, that meeting was already scheduled.
Right, no, it was scheduled, but we got a copy of the personnel rules that we were gonna be looking at tonight, which wouldn't have been, if there were any changes made today.
Right, they would not have included that.
Right.
Now, this one should have the same information as what she sent you, but it's an easier to read version.
Yeah, that's.
So it doesn't have like all of the commas and capitalizations noted, but it has all of the changes noted.
Right.
There wasn't anything significant that was deleted.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna see this again on the 31st, yes?
Yeah, this
Because
is
it says dated March 31st, so what
this
is
is
your
your preview. Well, that was, because the idea was that was when you would approve it. That's why it says March 31st.
Right. What I wonder is, the select board, have they gotten this copy as well?
No, we just made this today for you.
Okay. And, I'm assuming you can send it out to them so they have a chance to review it before we get to the 31st?
Oh, yeah, or. it might
Otherwise, they
even-
might say we haven't
Well,
reviewed it.
this also, I haven't even had a chance to proof this. I mean, so there may be things in here that I haven't, that are not right, but
Right.
they probably are right.
Can I ask, are the highlighted portions additions?
Yes, most of them are additions, some of them are changes. Like, for example, an area where we had a lot of changes was, part-time employees on page 8. It was very complicated, the previous language. So we moved it into categories of part-time employees to make it simpler. But those categories existed before, they just weren't written this way. So I can get you a strikeout underlined version, but it's horrible to read through.
No, I hate those, please. No, yeah, I just wanted to make sure. There's some clarifications that I think need to be made for some of these additions.
Oh, yeah, and I can explain them to you. I just wanted to get you a readable copy so that
Can you
you can
term
see where it
domestic partner?
changes. I'm sorry, what?
Can you term domestic partner? What's the definition?
Shannon can tell you. I mean, it's a legal definition.
Well, it's not outlined here.
What do you mean?
What page on, John?
So I'm on just some of the things on here are kind of loose, like page 4, paragraph N, spouse. For the purpose of this policy, the term spouse shall be construed to mean legally married, civil union, or domestic partner.
Yeah.
So you could actually, domestic partner could be your cat.
Yeah. Yeah, Shannon, you wanna, we talked about that. Shannon, did you hear?
Domestic partner cannot be your cat. Domestic partner is defined by the same as the health insurance companies, and that is someone that you reside with and have a relationship with. So we just would require them to have provide documents that show that they have utilities in their name, that they receive mail there. That's all we can do.
But is that defined here or no?
In the document?
Yeah, because married and civil union have legal connotations. Those are legal definitions.
There's a legal definition for domestic partner too.
But it's
None of them are in there. The definition of married or civil union isn't in there.
right. But those 2 points have legal definitions.
Yeah, Shannon's saying domestic partner does too. Not only does need to be a person. Right, Shannon, what you're saying is domestic partner is defined somewhere, a legal definition, right?
Correct.
And where is that defined?
But not on the document.
Right, not on this document. I just,
Right.
Well, we would have to define all of them then, correct?
I would agree with that, yeah.
Right.
But you really want to add 3 more definitions?
no, I'm just
Well,
making sure that we have, we have additions here and making sure that we have, definitions for it.
Oh, yeah, and Ray looked at the initial set of changes and he's gonna look at the next set of changes.
well, the state of Vermont has definitions as well as, you probably identical to the feds anyway, as far as those things go. My concern about the domestic partner and stuff had to do with time. For instance, adding, you just met someone, you decided to move them into your place. Okay, you wind up having, that you decide you want to put them on your insurance because you got great insurance. That's okay, even though you may not be with them next week.
I think it is, Shannon knows the details. Did you hear that question, Shannon?
So the legal definition of domestic partner is a person who shares a residence with a sexual partner, especially without a legally recognized union. And that's a legal definition that the state, the government, as well as all health insurance companies respect. And yeah, same thing. If I met someone tomorrow and got married, you guys would have to let them on my insurance.
Yeah, but what if you didn't, okay.
We're not married.
Not married, but just domestic partner.
But as long as they resided with me, were my sexual partner, and could prove residency, that's how it works.
Wait, what if you weren't even, okay, we don't even care if this isn't about sleeping with somebody. This is simply about defining.
I'm telling you the
Your
definition.
roommate, you decide your roommate is your domestic partner and you put them on your insurance. That's still okay, right?
That would be lying, but people get married for the same reason too.
That's the difference between a roommate and a domestic partner.
I know,
You
you
have
call
a
them your domestic
relationship.
partner.
I know, but people marry people for benefits as well.
Yeah, I know.
So
Married people get divorced so they can have better benefits. Just depends on what you do.
yeah, I'm not arguing with any of you. I'm just following the state and federal.
Yeah, I know. It just federally impacts us, that's all. I mean, I'm not financially impacts us.
Right, but other employers are under the same, they're playing by the same
Yeah, I know,
rules.
yeah. It just, messy.
It really is. This is determined by the health insurance companies.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because they're the ones who allow the enrollment.
I'd just like to add that I think you have to keep domestic partner in there.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not taking it out.
And I think that you got to keep in mind that this has been worked over by the employees. And so I would urge all the board members to read it closely. I would also say that given our esteemed counsel's memo that he sent us last week,
Yeah.
The whole significance or legitimacy of the personnel rules has been thrown into question as far as I'm concerned. I had signed up originally to participate in the review of personnel policies and found myself in a room with, I think 15 or so employees. And there was one representative of the village and one representative of the select board. So the whole purpose of having a committee, in my opinion, needs to be seriously looked at. This idea where you're going to have a committee and you're outnumbered 15-2, and you're the one that's setting the policies. Is a bit far-fetched. So
I agree.
anyway,
with you there, Jason.
I think expecting us to pass this version on the 31st is wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. I think certainly by the 31st, I know I'm going to look at it very closely, and I'm anticipating an and And then I think we need to be ready with our comments on this this document that, as I said, has been worked over pretty thoroughly by the employees. So
On the second, I don't know, these aren't numbered, there's no page numbers. Actually, there it is, cover by scale. Page 4, the letter K under definitions, that entire thing is whole hog added to the personnel rule, yes? It wasn't there before.
I don't think it was there before. There was no definition of the personnel rules.
Right. And because it says, because it basically is, to me, this change establishes a personnel rules committee as the same as in section 4 on page 5, which talks about that. Again, the one of the two things that Ray will tell us every time that we set as board members, that includes the select board, is policy. Personnel rules seem to me something that should be handled by management. And this particular process binds the hands of the board. Now, I'll have a lot more to say on the 31st, but that's the first thing that's very bothersome to me. And was at the meetings, since I wound up going to most of the meetings, Mr. I'm in Florida.
thank you.
Saying.
I mean, did I thank you for that?
But I tried
I want to thank you very much for.
I wanted to give them, if it was being done, then I would listen to what they had to add and knew they would be coming back to the boards at the end of this month, so. But that's my first concern. There are others, but that was the major one I had at the onset, because that's driving union negotiations. The way it's set up right now, the personnel rules ahead of the union negotiations means no union negotiations are going on. We have 3.5 months, less than 3.5 months left of the contracts. We haven't even started a first meeting on that, and this is driving what happens next. And since it's being done by the employees, who owns the personnel rules? The boards clearly do not. Management is having to go by the rules that are set up by the personnel. So,
The boards ultimately have to approve it.
Right,
The board is.
and that's if the boards read it, and if the boards question it and ask for sections to be removed.
Yeah.
Then but then what does the personnel committee do about that?
Just live with it.
Back out and punt.
No, just live with it. The board is the ultimate authority. That's what makes those meetings awkward, is that
Yeah, ridiculous.
the board could just say, we don't like that paragraph. See ya.
And that's likely to happen.
And that's the end of the conversation. So that's what makes those meetings in my opinion, they're not very useful, except for the sides to understand what each other wants,
yes.
But in terms of coming together to craft something that's going to last, I don't think that's.
I know. So the meetings
other places don't do that.
I know. It's a pre-negotiation negotiation essentially.
Right.
Preparing their game plan, their strategy, the direction they want to take things in. Not monetarily perhaps, because you don't get the dollars and cents out there, but you get everything else.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay, is there anything else anyone wants to say about these rules, except that please read them carefully before the 31st? And that's my concern, is boards not reading them and then passing them has left us, and that's what happens. Each iteration of the board winds up with what's left over after other boards didn't read them and pass them.
Right, and I part of my job is to tell you what's different too.
So
on these.
So if you'd like to do that, please.
looking at page 8, I see there's some criteria there with the items of C, 1 and 2. And there has been reasoning behind when we go and fund a part-time position, that we don't fund it to go beyond X amount of hours to have to get involved with additional costs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that took a long time.
Well,
too.
these paragraphs, you're talking about the 30 to 40 hour and the 20 to less than 30, those do not change what we have been doing. They just explain it hopefully more clearly. Shannon, that's right, correct? Did you hear me?
Yeah. That's
They
accurate.
don't change what we've been doing. They just make what we've been doing understandable.
Actually, you find it. If you take the original one because we should already all have one of those.
Right. And then-
Okay, if you're maybe a digital copy or in our handbook, employee hand, our trustee handbook, you can compare these to the original notes that were in the last iteration from 2012. And see that the language has been replaced here because there was a lot of time spent on these different sections, trying to define the time so that they weren't, so the part-timer was in their actual definition of what they really did. Because some of them said hours that actually overlap with another part-time position. It was nuts.
Well, like, look at the letter B, full-time employees, which says privileges are available for use following a 6-month period from hire, which is normally during the probationary period. The way you could have interpreted the way the language previously was, which is not here, was that you have to wait a year after because the probationary period is a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was conflicting. The language was conflicting. So that is a change, but it's a change to just make it clear.
So,
okay.
Mhm.
Are there other major areas you want to cover, Wendy?
Physical examination, on the next page, page 9, we added at the option of the municipality because we have not been requiring all employees to have physical exams and they're expensive. So if you guys want to force that, that's fine. But we have not been doing that. Just certain jobs need an exam.
Anyone that has access to a vehicle needs to have a DOT card.
Well, we made it an option in the municipality, basically, to require an exam.
Right, so that covers all water and sewer.
Are you talking about the CDL?
No, DOT card.
You don't have to, if you're driving a pickup, you're not required to have a DOT card.
Now you are.
Not that I've heard of.
Uh-oh.
Anybody with CDL has to have a DOT card.
Anyone operating a commercial vehicle, the new definition of a commercial vehicle is, doesn't matter the weight class or size, the federal government is classifying it as a vehicle used in commerce.
Oh, but I guess you better go back to your,
Does this count as
I'll have
commerce?
to,
Municipal?
I think having it at the option of the municipality is the right thing. I mean, it's,
yeah.
But we should check that out. All
Yeah,
right.
you definitely want to,
So anyway, but we put it at the option in the municipality
Right.
as opposed to requiring it.
mandatory, yeah.
And then, do you want me to keep going?
Sure, please.
no, I thought we were going to do this on the 31st.
Oh, all right. I don't have to go.
Yeah, I mean, I need to read this and.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
like 9 pages into it, right?
Yeah.
2 paragraphs.
There was some significant.
Most of the conversation was the first 4 pages.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, page, yeah, anyways.
So yes, please make sure you read this thoroughly in order to make sure that we can have, I would even list, if you have, page numbers, sections, so that we can easily move through page to page with questions for both boards. Would be the best option. Is there any other business at this point? I will start with Wendy. Did you have anything
No.
else? Gary?
are we waiting to put out for a dispatcher until the new fiscal year?
No. We have advertised, but we're going to advertise on our website now.
Okay.
So if you know anybody who's interested.
All right. Jigs, do you have anything else for other business?
No, I'm all set.
Deb?
I'll say.
John?
Nope.
I know that, Fact TV is filming, so basically they're getting an audio of most of the room here. I just want business owners and residents to know that we're still community, and we need to do the things that we can, even if we can't touch each other or stand closer than 6 feet to each other, to support each other. Do takeout if you can do that. Make sure you get your kids and other people's kids to the school if you're under 18 to get lunches and help them get paperwork back. If you feel safe enough about it, give people rides or do a grocery shopping for them or something like that. Try to help us stay alive as we move through this. It's different every day. We've got a new order from the governor, takes effect at 5 o'clock. And that will have an impact on us. Do your homework. Stay at home, make phone calls or talk to people. Become one of the helpers that Bellows Falls is just developing now. Do any and all of those things to support each other through this so that we will still rise out of it as a community. We're doing well. Be safe, everyone. I think that we have, anything else from you gentlemen out there, in our audience, so Sean and Marcus Bemis. I don't believe we need the executive session at this point. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All those in favor of adjournment, signify by aye.
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 Thank you, Jakes. All right, we are now adjourned.